Hello Internet! It's time for another Wednesday serial, and this time I want to talk about a bunch of DC books that came out this week, especially considering everything that's going down. These issues have a bit of a different air about them. But before I get to those, I do want to quickly mention that my comic dealer down at Time Warp, good old Wayne, he's offering a discount, which is really awesome, if you buy all the new number ones for the DC launch. It's a chunk of change, but I couldn't say no, so I'm going to be reviewing every issue 1 as they come out. Hopefully that will help any of you who are on the fence about certain titles, or just get some impressions, get some good dialogue going. So just thought I'd put that out there for later, but for now, let's get to the books that came out today. Now, the first book I want to go over is what I believe is going to be the last issue of Power Girl. I could be wrong, but I believe this is it, and oddly enough, this is written by Matthew Sturges. Now, on top of him, to my knowledge, not really having done any Power Girl before, he's also mostly known for writing Jack of Fables, who's one of the most misogynistic characters in all of comics, and it's just kind of interesting to have that juxtaposition, especially because he starts this issue off with her talking about girl power and it trying to be this empowering thing for women, which is a good thing to have in the market, and it's a good message, but it's kind of hammed up and overhanded here, and the issue, I think, had a good heart about it, but kind of fell apart in the execution. Though, to be fair, nowadays a one and done is probably really hard to write, especially when you're used to writing entirely 6-issue stuff for novels, so who knows. The art on it is just the same. I believe this person's worked on the book before, and the expressions and everything on Power Girl and all the girls involved in the comic are great. It's an interesting little conceit. It's something really different if you're looking for something to maybe have a little girl power comic. I mean, this might be something worth picking up if that's something you're more interested in. For me, it was interesting to read, but I couldn't really see coming back to this either, and it certainly doesn't measure up to some of the amazing talent stuff that's been done in this book just prior, which is maybe why it's not coming off so well. But overall, hey, decent comic. Next up is Thunder Agents numero 90, which is kind of interesting to see where this book has gone. It was all the buzz just, a few months ago, and then I really feel Nick Spencer kind of dropped the ball with this comic. I mean, I've never been a huge fan of this comic, but I kept picking it up because I heard so many good things, so many people were liking it, and I just kind of wanted to be in on it. It was different. I just felt like I should give it a chance because I felt like there was something else there for the first chunk. And then, I don't know, he got into this arc recently and it just kind of all fell apart. It was kind of these weird, human interest stories, two superheroes with kind of a twist, and building up this whole weird conceit around the Thunder Agents, and now it's just kind of become a weird family feud espionage comic that doesn't quite have the thunder that the last few issues did. So, An interesting title to come out this month is The War of the Green Lanterns Aftermath, and I'm just gonna go into spoiler territory, even though you've probably already heard most of it, but hey. At the end of War of Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan had to kill a Guardian that had gone completely black and wrong and total villain, and for that he was cast out of the Corps, brought back to Earth, to where he exclaims to some cop on the side of the road, "I'm a nobody now," which doesn't even, I don't know, that seemed out of character to me. But then for the rest of the issue we have no action. It's all dialogue and drama, which is interesting because that's something I always felt Green Lanterns kind of needed after an event, but this was one of the few times where I didn't. I kind of wanted to see what happened next, and now we're finally getting that dramatic issue, and it's a bigger issue, and for all the dialogue and everything moving on, it's all heading up into the next issue. You have Kilowog, who is just ready to throw away his ring and quit, along with a bunch of other Lanterns, because they're so disgusted by the way the Guardians are acting, especially because, and I didn't mention, the rings are going haywire because Mogo can't choose where they go, which I think is kind of odd that that's part of the mythology. Now that's just gone. There's nothing else for that before. It seems that there's not something else for it. I think that's just odd. But anyways, the rings are going haywire and going to apparently anyone, which weird. But Sinestro got one of the rings and is considered to possibly be part of the core. The Guardians aren't making up their mind. That's part of the big wait and see bit. And there's a lot going on with John Stewart, who blew up Mogo as a way to save everyone, because through Mogo being controlled, he was controlling all the Lanterns, and that was all in War of the Green Lanterns. And it seemed like such a clear, like, devastating, hard but needed to be done move at the time, because what else are you going to do if an entire planet is against you? You have a way to take out the planet. Is there really another way to fight it? And maybe they could have with White Lantern energy, or maybe there was some other around it, but considering everything was so time sensitive, which was a big thing that they set up, I don't know, and it just seems odd to me that for all the dire consequences and everything that's gone on, that all these characters are coming down. I also find it weird that a lot of these aliens are talking again about how the Earth Lanterns stick together and all that, when clearly there's been differences between them and that they're not that close together, and all these Earth Lanterns have worked with so many other Lanterns at this point. I don't know, it just doesn't quite carry the same weight. And for that, I really appreciated actually the Green Lantern Corps issue that came out last week with someone who's new but felt the need to earn her place in the Lanterns, because she knows a lot of these Lanterns are just coming and going, but she wants to be there and she's trying to earn it. And she deals with an issue not the best way, and John Stewart actually talks his way out of a fairly volatile situation between two alien tribes on a planet, which was just, it was such a great issue and such a great sci-fi thing, and kind of, in my mind, harken back to those good one-off Star Trek episodes where you see when they do choose to take action, it's because it is the right solution for that problem, whereas they realize there are other avenues to solve their problems. I always like to see that from these supposed superheroes who claim that they don't want to be violent but end up punching someone every week. So, I don't know, and here we go with this talking issue, and it's all just like on the verge of, everyone wants to fight, and there's a group who wants to exterminate Sinestro, and it's just kind of feels up in the air and wonky, and it feels like they should have just waited with this Aftermath thing to release some huge, because this thing's thick enough as it is, to just release some huge, like, I don't know, $10 thing or $8 thing, whatever, and just here's a huge, 80-page special, 100-page special, and read this, and then everything will launch over to however they're going with Green Lantern with the whole Redux. So, yeah. Blah! But that all sucks and blah. A great issue that came out this week, out of nowhere in my mind, I was almost hesitant to pick it up, was Zatanna 15. Great cover. You have Derek, and I'm going to butcher this, Fridiolis, who scripted this, and Jamal Igle and John Dell on art. And first off, I mean, just to speak to the art, the storytelling and the art is magnificent. It's kind of, I'd almost argue, a 90s-esque style of art, but it's all consistent, it's all there, and there's a great level of detail and almost a little more than needs to be there, but it looks gorgeous. But the scripting on this issue, for a one and done nowadays, was amazing. I think this actually is my favorite issue of Zatanna I've read. And to just go check it out to see if this is something you'd even want to get, even though the series is over now, I would highly recommend just finding this issue. This is just, it reads like this so quick, but there's so much in there. It starts off with Zatanna bam, getting an arrow through the jugular that's apparently poisoned, which impedes her from talking. And at first I know how I feel about this, because it felt like every time I read Zatanna, it harkens back to something in her past that she learned, and she has to apply that now, which maybe that's just a conceit of a Zatanna story, but we see her go all martial arts on these people trying to take her out, and there's some great action there, and she has to heal herself, and she wears a scarf in the meanwhile to keep it from being too gory, despite the fact, I don't know, just great visuals in there. And then you find out these people trying to take her out are witch hunters, and talking about how all these different people with all these different names in society now are really just witches and evil magic users. And oh my gosh, what a great sort of like group of enemies for Zatanna, and for them to be effective and almost take her out like that is just, it was so amazing to me, and it just made so much sense, because part of me reading more and more of this character is like, it really doesn't feel that anyone could put up a challenge to her, or anyone has a real reason to go against her, unless it's some like prophecy or some sort of big deal. And to see sort of this kind of natural opposing force of some religious zealots just blew me away. And then to see at the end the way that she punishes them by teleporting them into the Salem times, to which the Salem villagers go to burn them, and at the last minute she brings them back and puts them into jail, but just wants to put the fear of God into them, as it were. And this is a great single issue comic, and I wish there was more of this sort of stuff out there. And man, if DC, Marvel, Image, whoever put out more stuff like this, more single issue stuff like this, they could really justify people not waiting for trades, not doing any of that, and just picking up and enjoying a damn comic. So there's a lot of heebie-jeebies out there, a lot of different things with DC right now leading up to this reboot, and I think once this reboot happens, all the energy will be there and it'll be good stuff. This past month has been kind of shaky, but has led to some interesting stuff, and I think let some talent kind of creep out that hopefully we'll see more from later. So that's it for now, but as I've said, there should be a lot more coming, and I'm going to be really excited. And of course next month is going to be very DC centric, as I imagine anyone talking comics, or mainstream comics at the very least, is going to be very DC centric for the next month, because it's a big deal. And I have to kudos to Marvel. They've had a little bit of counteracting, but I think they're just going to realize that DC earned this one. They're not going to try to act out too much and just try to make good comics for the month and then have their day shortly thereafter. So hopefully they stick to that, because otherwise it gets to dirty company stuff. Nobody likes that. So, peace, love, and a pint, and I will catch you guys soon with another comic review.